He was my friend. We met in college, and being college fellows, we became friends. But I think this friendship was more for me than him. I always remained keen on helping him in studies because he was not interested in studies. Why should he be? Because he was the son of a rich person, and for him, a lot of opportunities were waiting for him in future. On the contrary, I belonged to a poor family, and the desire of my parents was to see me in government job, and for this, I have to listen a lecture from my father to be extra attentive towards studies, as we don't have ample money to do business, if for any reason I could not pass my exams with distinction. Sometimes I became irritated by these continuous lectures. Then I thought they were right in any way. We are among those people who have to dig their own well for drinking water because not even a single miracle had ever happened in our lineage, which would have changed our luck. Nadir told us stories of his riches, and I became impressed more than anyone else. After graduation, Nadir went to his father's business, and I started watching ads in the newspaper. My parents told me that they could not bear the expenditures of my studies. First, I had to search for a job for me and my family, then I could carry on my studies if I liked to. What job I could get more than that of a clerk in any office as my studies permit me? So I became a clerk and did my master's privately. On the other hand, Nadir helped his father in business. Sometimes we get together and recalled old days. After 2 years of my job, my parents got me married and life totally changed. Now I met with my friends once in a blue moon. Nadir also got married and was now sole proprietor of his business and was more than busy. Life was quite good with me too. Those days my brother-in-law was fixed, and naturally we had to take part in it more than anyone else for the sake of my wife. On the wedding day, she asked me to borrow my friend's car, as I could not buy a car yet of my own. With little reluctance, I agreed because I could also show off in front of guests. I went to Nadir and told him my purpose for coming. He refused and said that his car was very costly, and any damage cost him a lot of money. But I assured him that I would compensate for what would happen to the car. I requested him not to refuse, so what would my wife think about our friendship? After many ifs and buts, he handed me his car, and I drove my home to carry my family to the party. To come out of a car before others is something indescribable. Those who have cars can't understand this feeling, but the borrower can. The party was a complete success, and the guests started departing. We also asked permission for home and came out of the banquet. To my astonishment, there was no car where I parked. The world seemed whirling. It seemed as if someone had pulled the carpet under my feet. I ran here and there and asked the management, but to no avail. I called the police and they asked me to come to the police station to register the case. He asked me to bring the owner of the car, and I didn't know how to call Nadir. And when he listened, his anger knew no bounds, and I had to bear all that. The case was registered, and I consoled him that I would pay for the lost car if in 1 month the police could not recover. The car was not recovered. In the meanwhile, I started arranging money. I regretted that idea should not have come to my mind, and my wife was really sad too. I applied for the loan in a bank which was given to me as I was a government servant. I gave that money to Nadir, which he took frowningly. Life had become more tight to me as for the 5 years loan plan. I started home tuitions to fulfill the expenditures. One day, I was coming back from tuition and stopped at the red light and was lost in my thoughts. When the familiar brand of the lost car stopped beside me, I could not ignore that model since then the incident had happened, because that was the symbol of my bad luck. I saw a couple sitting inside and were chatting and laughing, And then I glanced at the car number. To my astonishment, I screamed because that was the same number of the stolen car and the same made. I parked my bike right in front of the car without wasting time, as they might have run away from the scene. I went to the man and asked him to come out of the car. He was very amazed at my behavior and angrily came out and asked me the reason for my decency. I asked him where he had taken the car. He asked why I was asking him such a question and what was the matter with me. I told him to tell me straight or I would call the police. People started gathering there and the traffic jammed. Meanwhile, a policeman appeared at the spot and asked me why I had created such a scene. I told him that was my car. I could call it mine because I had paid its amount and it was stolen a year before. The policeman asked me if I had any proof. I showed him the copy of fur of that stolen car. He told us both to come to the police station with him. We both went there and the person showed the proof that he had bought that car from the owner named Nadir and presented all the documents. The police officer, after investigation, asked him to go and told me that I was only creating a mess. No doubt that the car was stolen but was found, and the police handed it over to the owner named Nadir, the same person who sold that car to that person. He also told me that I was creating a problem for that gentleman for nothing. For nothing. It ruined my life. I borrowed it, and I paid the amount to Nadir, but they said that I must go to the owner then, and they could not do anything in this matter. Angrily, I got up and headed towards Nadir's home. His wife met me and told me that he was in a coma. 1 year before, we bought a new, very costly car, but when we were going on a trip in a hilly area, the car turned over. Since then, he has been in a state of coma, and we all were seriously injured. His father died at the spot, and all their business came to an end as nobody was there to take care of it. I, who was in great anger, just prayed for them and came out not knowing what to say and what to do.